Thank you. Today, Admiral Paul F. Zunkow, the 25th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, will be relieved by Admiral Carl Schultz. Presiding over today's exchange of command is the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Thank you for the Coast Guard bagpipe team for your wonderful music. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed the video that was developed by our Public Affairs First Class Petty Officer, Patrick Kelly. We'd also like to thank our Ceremonial Honor Guard under the leadership of Lieutenant Brandon Earhart and 3rd United States Infantry, the Old Guard, for their services of the gun salute. Be ready for the gun salute. Already joining us on the stage is the 10th Chaplain of the United States Coast Guard, Captain Gregory Todd, United States Navy Chaplain Corps, and the 12th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Stephen W. Cottrell. Joining us for today's ceremony are the following members of the Admiral Zunkow's family: his wife, Miss Frances Danino; his mother, Miss Marge Zunkow; his daughter, Miss Heidi Diliberto; his son, Mr. Brett Zunkow; his daughter, Miss Erica Law, who was not able to attend today but is represented by her daughter and Admiral's granddaughter, Miss Adeline Law; his brother, Eric Zunkow, and Miss Karen McGinnis, and granddaughter, Miss Stella Diliberto. Welcome to the Zunkow family. Also joining us are the following member of Admiral Schultz's family: his wife, Miss Dawn Schultz; his daughters, Kelsey, Lindsay, and Annalise Schultz; his sons, 3rd Class Coast Guard Academy Cadet Eric Schultz; Mr. Zachary Schultz, and his mother, Miss Elizabeth Schultz. Thank you for the Schultz family for joining us. Honor Gordon, post. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing throughout the presentations of colors, playing of the national anthem, and the invocation. Now, Admiral, United States Coast Guard, arriving. Now, Coast Guard, arriving. Now, Homeland Security, arriving. Now, President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, arriving. Hand salute. Ready? 2. Color Guard, advance the colors. Hand salute. Color guard, retire the colors. Ready? 2. Now, Chaplain Todd will deliver the invocation.
A reading from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Let us pray. Eternal Father, in your graciousness you have given us the great honor and privilege of serving as part of the United States Coast Guard. You bless us with the joy of serving with shipmates we respect and value. And we are especially mindful today of the blessing of having served with and benefited by the leadership of Admiral Paul Zukunft, for whom love is the highest calling. As this ceremony calls to mind many years of memories, we pray that Admiral Zukunft will be blessed with the satisfaction gained from a successfully completed mission, that lives were made better by you, O Lord, through him. Because of your goodness, Lord, we are also bold to ask for your spirit of wisdom and strength to rest upon Admiral Carl Schultz as he assumes command of the Coast Guard. Surround him with wise counselors, protect him from both spiritual and temporal enemies, and grant him success in his calling. Lord, we are also bound to gratefully remember the blessing of our military families, who also faithfully stand their watch. We thank you for your love, O Lord, shown through Mrs. Fran Danino Zukunft's tireless advocacy on behalf of our families. And we pray for Mrs. Dawn Schultz as she assumes the Ombudsman at Large mission. Grant a special blessing to our Coast Guard families. And finally, dear Lord, be with our shipmates who right now are on duty, underway, or standing the watch. Send your holy angels to protect them in their tasks and grant them a joyful reunion with faithful loved ones who wait for them at home. It's into your hands we commend our prayers, trusting in your love and mercy. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Todd. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Military members, you may uncover. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the Honorable Kirsten Nielsen, Secretary of Homeland Security and the Service Secretary of the United States Coast Guard.
Well, good morning. It's so wonderful to see many of you here to support this change of command ceremony. I'd like to welcome the President, the Vice President, Admiral Zukunft, Admiral Schultz, Vice Admiral Roy, members of the Cabinet, members of Congress, dignitaries, former commandants. Appreciate you being here, as you always continue to be part of our family, and other distinguished guests. Today is a day of hails, a day of farewells, and a day of thank yous. As we welcome Admiral Schultz as the 26th Coast Guard Commandant, we say farewell to Admiral Zunkoff and thank them both for their exemplary service to our nation. Service above self, an Admiral Zunkoff quote, is a reflection of his 40 years of service in the Coast Guard, words to live by that I share. I am honored to serve as the Coast Guard Service Secretary and extremely proud that the United States Coast Guard is a part of our DHS family. We are fortunate to have a great champion for the men and women of the Coast Guard in our Commander-in-Chief. Just last month, President Trump, Admiral Zunkoff, and I toured the Joint Interagency Task Force South, where he praised the Coast Guard for the difficult and dangerous work that you do every day to stop drugs, human traffickers, and illegal immigrants from entering the country. As he said, it's something that the people of the United States very much appreciate. The President has recognized what you all know, that the Coast Guard is a vital member of our national security team. So after years of the Coast Guard being asked to do more with less, and less, and less, President Trump has fought for the recapitalization of Coast Guard assets, requesting $1.9 billion for 2019. That includes funding a new offshore patrol cutter, 4 fast response cutters, and the nation's first new heavy polar icebreaker in more than 40 years. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Coast Guard's outstanding response to the historic 2017 hurricane season, a truly remarkable undertaking. Overseeing that response across the Atlantic area was Admiral Carl Schwartz. Under then Vice Admiral Schultz's guidance in the field, the U.S. Coast Guard performed exceptionally in assisting Americans everywhere in need. Admiral Schultz's competence, leadership, and dedication to country was evident in the mission, and the President and the Coast Guard thank him for that, as well as the larger DHS family and that of a grateful nation. As he assumes command today as the Commandant of the Coast Guard, President Trump and I have full confidence in Admiral Schultz's ability to lead this proud organization with honor and integrity. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce our nation's Commander-in-Chief, the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Secretary Nielsen. Great job you're doing. That was a wonderful introduction, and your leadership as the Coast Guard's Service Secretary has been very much appreciated and respected. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you as well to our great Vice President, Mike Pence. Please stand up, Mike, for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here with the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard. You are America's first line of defense. The best of the best. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected again. We're being respected abroad. And we are restoring our wealth at home. It's about time. We have reached yet one more historic milestone, with 3.8% unemployment just announced and another all-time record low African-American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment at an all-time low in history. We're very honored by that. And by the way, for the women out there, the lowest unemployment in 19 years. And I'll be soon saying that will be in history also, very soon. That won't take much longer. We're honored to be joined for today's ceremony by Director Coates, Dan Coates. Where's Dan? Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Director Alice, Commissioner McAlennan, Administrator Long, and Acting Director Holman, who's done a fantastic job, along with many of our senior military leaders, General Dunford, General Selva, Admiral Richardson, General Goldfein, and General Langell. Where is everybody? Stand up. These are serious, powerful, incredible people. Please stand up. Great people. Thank you. Incredible people. We're gathered together today for a truly special occasion. We are here to mark a change in command of the United States Coast Guard and celebrate the incredible career of its 25th Commandant, Admiral Paul Zukov. Great job. He's got his family here. They're very proud. They should be. And Paul, I have to tell you on behalf of the American people, I thank you for a lifetime of noble service. Congratulations on everything you have achieved. For nearly half a century, 45 years, Paul has proudly worn the Coast Guard uniform. That's a long time. You don't look that old. Really, that's a 45 years? 45 years. How good does he look? 45 years. Must be something awfully good happening in the Coast Guard. In that time, he has led every kind of mission, and he has never backed down, ever, ever, ever. He's never lost a challenge. For the past 4 years, Admiral Zukov has led his brand and this brand of the United States Armed Forces as Commandant, and he has led with extraordinary skill and devotion and pride. Today, we also thank Paul's wife, Fran, for her own service over the years, including as a devoted mentor and representative for military families. Fran, please stand up. Thank you, Fran. I hate to tell you this, Paul, but she got a bigger hand than all of us, including me. I don't know if I'm happy about this, Paul. Thank you, Fran. And Fran, we're grateful for everything you've done to advance the Coast Guard mission. It's been a lot. We're also joined by the Admiral's mother, Marge, his brother, Eric, sister, Karen, son, Brett, daughter, Heidi, and granddaughters, Stella and Adeline. Stand up, family. Come on. Paul is very proud of you. Thank you for supporting him in his mission and bringing so much joy into his life. Throughout the Admiral's tenure, he poured his heart and soul into the service of our nation. And he brought remarkable vision to the task of ensuring the Coast Guard's rightful place at the forefront of American security and prosperity. Everyone here today understands a crucial fact. America is safe because our Coast Guard is strong. And last season, during the hurricanes, I was in Texas, I was in Florida, I was in Puerto Rico. I saw the work that you did under the most adverse conditions. And I've said this to a lot of people. I don't think any brand has gained more momentum or has gained more of anything than the brand of the United States Coast Guard. People have tremendous respect for the United States Coast Guard. True, right? I've told you that before. You are the elite force that defends our borders, patrols our waters, protects our cities, and keeps our enemies at bay. Paul sharpened the Coast Guard's focus on the Western Hemisphere, a crucial legacy that will long outlive Paul's tenure. This includes greater emphasis on drug interdiction and the formation of historic partnerships to stop this deadly poison, and that's what it is, it's poison, from reaching our shores and destroying our youth and others. Paul also worked tirelessly to protect America's interest in the Arctic. His leadership helped launch the Arctic Coast Guard Forum, and he made a top priority to ensure that the United States military can project American might all the way to the poles. One of the first times I met the Admiral, last year, I asked him, "What do you need?" He replied, "Sir, we need icebreakers, and we need them badly." Well, now you're getting them. And to be specific, I'm pleased to report that the Coast Guard is now on course to receive its first new heavy icebreaker in more than 40 years, and plenty other ships and boats and equipment and everything you need. Our new budget, just passed, $700 billion this year, $716 billion next year. You're going to be very well taken care of. You're going to have to split that with a few others, but that's okay. We're splitting it up a little bit, but that's a lot. Never been anything like it. We have the greatest equipment in the world, and we make the greatest equipment in the world right here in the United States. We're committed to a military and security budget that funds and recognizes the Coast Guard's vital role. There is no better investment than giving you the tools you need to keep drugs, criminals, and terrorists out of our country. Commandant Admiral Zhukoft also spearheaded a new Coast Guard cyber strategy, so important, and he was at the forefront. He recognizes that we must harden our industry, ports, and waterways against cyber intrusion. Paul's stellar record of achievement is a testament to his talent and to his leadership, but it's also a testament to the amazing talent of our Coast Guard men and women who carry out their missions with excellence every single day. You chase down our enemies, track down our adversaries, and face down our greatest threats. Nobody like you. You secure our borders against traffickers, smugglers, criminals, some of the worst people anywhere on earth, and we feel secure. And through driving winds and pounding rain and thundering seas, the Coast Guard is always there doing what it does best, saving lives. In last year's historic hurricane season, our Coast Guard, heroes they are, saved almost 12,000 American lives in that short period. It's an unbelievable number when you think of it. It's an unbelievable number. 12,000. And I got a little education. I asked the Admiral, when that big monster is coming in this case to Texas, and it was coming in. They've never seen a water dump like that, I think, in history. In terms of water coming down, and it would come in, go out, 3 times, 4 times. There's never been anything like it. And his guys and gals, they just followed that thing back and forth, and you were all over it. I said, how dangerous is it? He said, sir, you don't want to know. I said, can the boats ever go down? You know, we have great equipment. Can the boats ever go down? And he said, yes, sir. And that was when I decided I won't be joining the Coast Guard. But he said, they go down. No matter how good you build them, they can go down with those big, powerful waves, can't they? So, great job. That was an incredible job you did. Thank you. Many service members left their own homes and families to plunge out of helicopters, wade through perilous waters, care for the wounded, and rescue the stranded, of which there were many. Your selfless courage has earned the gratitude of our nation. With this ceremony, we proudly pass the helm of the United States Coast Guard to the man who oversaw those emergency operations, Admiral Carl Schultz. Admiral, stand up, Admiral, stand up. As commander of the Coast Guard, Atlantic area, Admiral Schultz took responsibility for the Coast Guard response across the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic, and the Caribbean. I have complete confidence that Carl will carry out his new mission with the same talent, strength, and devotion that have characterized his entire career. He has had an incredible and very brave, but an incredible career. Carl, we congratulate you and we thank you for answering this call to service. We also thank your entire family for undertaking this journey with you. We are glad to be joined today by the Admiral's wife, Dawn, his mother, Elizabeth, daughters, Kelsey, Lindsay, and Annalise, and sons, Eric and Zachary. Thank you very much. Stand up. Stand up. As we observe this change in command, it is a great moment, not just for the Coast Guard, but for our entire nation. The Coast Guard record is unsurpassed anywhere in the world, from the courage of your heroes who manned the landing craft in the South Pacific, to the legendary prowess of your pilots, to the astonishing feats of your rescue swimmers. Your service makes all of America proud. We are very proud of the Coast Guard. More so today, I will tell you, more so today than ever before. And for that reason, America knows that we can always count on the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard is always ready. Now, Admiral Zukunft, would you please step forward so we can formally recognize your accomplishments?
Rise. Military members, attention to award. Citation to accompany the award of the Homeland Security Distinguished Service Medal, Gold Star in lieu of a second, to Admiral Paul F. Zukoff, United States Coast Guard. Admiral Zukoff is cited for extraordinary meritorious service to the government of the United States in a position of great responsibility as the 25th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard from May 2014 to May 2018, leading the 88,000 active duty, reserve, civilian, and auxiliary volunteers in the Department of Homeland Security's only armed force. Admiral Zukoff transformed the organization's strategic focus to best meet our nation's vast maritime interests and cement our service's standing as the world's premier Coast Guard. His strategic intent, supported by a suite of functional and regional plans, include the Western Hemisphere, Arctic, cyber, and human capital strategies aligned with broader national objectives, galvanized organizational effort, and yielded incredible results. Under his leadership, the service enhanced international partnerships and surged assets to extend the maritime border and combat violent criminal organizations threatening regional stability, established the Arctic Coast Guard Forum to advance governance in emerging region, advanced the service's cyber capabilities with national effect, and earned a fifth clean financial audit. A masterful communicator, Admiral Zunkoff aggressively shared the service's value and garnered unprecedented advocacy across the spectrum of administration and congressional stakeholders, culminating in funding to recapitalize severely aging cutter fleets with sophisticated new offshore patrol cutters, polar icebreakers, and waterways commerce cutters, and accelerate the repair of decades' worth of shore infrastructure damage. Proving his convictions that assets are hollow without people, in 2017, Admiral Zunkoff, alongside partner agencies, surged 3,000 Coast Guard men and women who saved nearly 12,000 Americans and fully restored our 4.6 trillion waterway system in the wake of one of the most catastrophic hurricane seasons on record. Admiral Zunkoff's leadership, dedication, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security. Given this first day of June 2018, signed the Honorable Kirsten M. Nielsen, Secretary of Homeland Security. Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. President and Secretary Nielsen. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present the 25th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Admiral Paul F. Zunkoff.
Well, good morning, everybody. I know it's hot out here, but to remind us, we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen in full body armor, standing in harm's way where it's 120 degrees today. They volunteered to serve, and you volunteered to be here. So we have a little bit in common here. But truly, Mr. President, you honor our men and women serving around the world today. Mr. Vice President, you honor our service as well, as you did last week when you commissioned 202 brand new ensigns in the class of 2018. Our service secretary. When Secretary Nielsen said, well, why June 1st? Well, as most know, especially Brock Long, our FEMA administrator, knows, today is the first day of hurricane season. Yes, this is a good time to cut and run. We have almost the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff with us here today. General Joe Dunford is sitting down on this end. General Paul Selvett is over here. My dear friend, John Richardson, sitting over here. Fingers, Dave Goldfein sitting on the other side, Joe Langell. I know the other Commandant could not be here, Bob Neller, and I just got off the phone with Mark Milley. He was called away, but Jim and Conville, thank you for representing the joint services, who are truly joint, but also to our component chiefs in the Department of Homeland Security, the operational ones with whom I work with the most. Kevin McAleenan at CBP, Tom Homan at ICE, Brock Long at FEMA Tex Alice at our Secret Service, and my classmate Dave Pekoski, the TSA administrator. We are truly unified. Truly unified as an interagency under the leadership of our service secretary, Secretary Nielsen. So thank you for being here today. I couldn't hear them. I didn't know they were here, but I understand the great class of 1977 is somewhere in this audience as well. I'm going to talk more about them later, because this really is a class filled with class. And we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Because, yes, this is blistering heat. The Vice President got off a little bit easier last week at the commencement address, not so much the year before when President Trump addressed the class of 2017. And now we have the President back yet again, and here we are. But this has truly been a first of firsts for our United States Coast Guard. First time ever we have had this level of leadership, the highest leadership in the land, the highest leadership in the world, to stand before the world's best Coast Guard. And so, Mr. President, on behalf of the men and women serving around the nation today, I thank you for taking time out of an extremely busy schedule to honor our service today. Thank you very much. So when I came into this position, I told my senior leadership team that it is high time that we swung for the fences. For too many years, we went up to the plate, and then we'd square around and bunt. You're never going to hit a ball out of the park when you bunt every time you step up to the plate. So we're going to swing for the fences. Well, swing we did because, Mr. President, you went to bat for the United States Coast Guard, and you hit it out of the park. 2018 was the largest appropriation ever for our United States Coast Guard. But as I was telling the President, you know, it's not about the money, it's not about the platforms, it's the people who serve in them. And I speak to every service chief. It's about the people. Well, right now, 95% of our first-term enlisted are re-enlisting again. They do not want to leave the Coast Guard. They see that their nation is making an investment in them. And one of the watchwords for Admiral Schultz is that the work they do could not be more relevant. And so they stay. And so if the father of the Coast Guard was here with us today, the father of the Coast Guard, Alexander Hamilton, he would look down fondly because when the Coast Guard was established in 1790, we were literally a bankrupt nation. We could not afford a United States Navy. So the Navy was disbanded and we stood up a fleet of 10 revenue cutters to generate revenue and to protect our maritime borders. Well, fast forward that clock today, and the Coast Guard serves around the world. We removed more cocaine than all of U.S. law enforcement combined with just this one service of ours, the United States Coast Guard. We secure our maritime borders. But what's not realized is our waterways that connect to deep water ports, that connect to the global supply chain that are maintained by the United States Coast Guard. That generates $4.6 trillion of revenue, of GDP, each and every year that our men and women of the United States Coast Guard enable. So yes, Alexander Hamilton, he was very frugal, but I would say we got a good return on investment. Hence, the bagpipes. We also play the bagpipes for my mother, who is 100% Scottish. My father was 100% German, so we end up with a stubborn cheapskate for a commandant. No, but all kidding aside, when I look at what we are investing in, our fleet of national security cutters. Originally, this was going to be a fleet of 8. We now have 11 on budget and under construction. The offshore patrol cutter. It was a hope in 2014, and senior leaders before me had worked this effort. Well, it's a reality. And the first one will hit the water in 2021, with many more to follow. Our patrol boats, we call them fast response cutters. The best lieutenant job in the Coast Guard. People ask me, what am I going to do next? I'm going to hang up these shoulder boards, I'm going to put 2 bars on, I'm going to screen for a 154-foot patrol boat. I'm coming back as a lieutenant. Bill Kelly, can I do that? I'm already the oldest admiral, I might as well be the oldest lieutenant. Yeah, we're building polar icebreakers. First one arrives in 2023. And then that $4.6 trillion that we enable, well, it's enabled by a fleet that is nearly 70 years old today. Not in the Smithsonian, but still maintaining our waterways to this very day. designed at a point in time where women did not go to sea. They were not in our service. So we need to get up with the times as well. So we're building out a fleet of what we call waterway commerce cutters. In 2019, we will open up a cyber curriculum at our United States Coast Guard Academy. You can't hire them off the street because everyone else is competing for this very same talent. So you have to grow the talent. And grow the talent we are. In fact, our top graduate last year will spend a career in cyber. He's a Fulbright scholar attending Oxford University today. So when I look at the talent coming in today versus the talent that came in 1973, it's a very competitive field out there with great folks. I hear a few. All right. Hey, statute of limitations is run out, guys. We're good. We're also investing in unmanned aerial systems as well, as are all the other services. Some of our work, do we actually have to put people in the harm's way? Or do we have dispensable platforms that can be the eyes for us so we don't have to call loved ones to say their loved one fell from the sky, or yes, those boats really do sink. Now, all of this is happening at a point in time when you recapitalize, there's usually a counterbalance. And the counterbalance to that is you cut your force strength. You cut people. We haven't had to do that. So not only are we investing in all these platforms, we're investing in our people as well. We're growing the force, our active, our reserve, our civilian workforce. I sign every 30-plus year certificate of public service by all of our public servants in our United States Coast Guard. We can't do our job without them. And even more importantly, I have much of the senior leadership of our Coast Guard Auxiliary. This is an all-volunteer component that contributes millions and millions of man-hours supporting our missions each and every year. Because I don't have enough people to do that work. I know when the other Joint Chiefs heard about this all-volunteer service, they said, how do we get some of that? Hey, they're mine. But anyway, it's a great model for us. And many times they're the first face of our public here doing recreational boating safety as well. But they proudly wear their Coast Guard Auxiliary uniform, very similar to the one we wear as well. So, yes. We did swing for the fences. And you know what, Mr. President, you selected another franchise player to take the field in the name of Admiral Carl Schultz, who very soon will be our 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. To Carl, Dawn, and family, welcome aboard. You will just be amazed how quick these next 4 years go by. We are literally term limited. You don't get to run again for another term. But I know together you will have Carl's side each and every step of the way, just as Fran and my family has had my back each and every step of the way. So yes, we swung for the fences, we hit a home run, but this is an infinite game, and yes, the game goes on, and so it must go on. So with that, I will now read my orders. From Coast Guard Personnel Service Command. To Admiral Paul Zukunft, Admiral, United States Coast Guard. Subject, orders, new assignment. Proceed to your home of selection upon retirement from the United States Coast Guard. It didn't say aloha, but I'm going to add aloha to that as well. Thank you very much. Admiral Allen, on Coast Guard headquarters, haul down my flag.
Aye, aye, Admiral. On board Coast Guard headquarters. Haul down Admiral Zunkost's flag. Hand salute. Ready, two. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Admiral Zunkoff's flag has been lowered to signify the end of his watch. Presenting him his flag today will be the 12th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Stephen Cantrell. Please remain standing. Admiral Carl Schultz will now read his orders.
From Commander, Personnel Services Command, to Admiral Carl L. Schultz. Upon relief of duties as Commander, Atlantic Area, detach and report to Coast Guard Headquarters for duty as the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. This constitutes a permanent change of station from Portsmouth, Virginia to Washington, D.C. President, I request your permission to relieve Admiral Zunkoff as Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, sir.
Permission granted.
Admiral Zunkoff, I offer my relief as Commandant, United States Coast Guard, sir.
I stand relieved. Mr. President, I have been properly relieved as Commandant of the world's best Coast Guard. Congratulations. Good job. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I am proud to assume command as the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, sir.
You will be fantastic. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
On board Coast Guard Headquarters, break Admiral Schultz's flag. Hand salute. Ready, two. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Admiral Carl Schultz.
Thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Madam Secretary, Admiral Zunkoff and Fran, it's an honor to be here this morning. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Mr. President, but I'm kind of glad it's the start of hurricane season. For a while there, I thought you were going to sign the boss up for 4 more years, or you're going to take the job, and you would probably lateral in at a pretty senior position, sir. So it is an honor to be here. To all the senior leaders, distinguished guests, international partners, our former Secretary of the Department of Transportation, the Honorable Norm Mineta, it is my distinct privilege to have assumed the duties as Commandant of the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. President Trump and Secretary Nielsen, I'm both humbled and honored by the trust you have placed in me in your nomination to this esteemed position, charged with leading the extraordinary men and women of the world's best Coast Guard. As I've assumed my new duties, I'm confident that we have built a strong leadership team that'll be guided by the words of our 6th President, President John Quincy Adams, who noted, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. We have pulled together such a team and are eager to get about the work of leading this Coast Guard. Demand for Coast Guard services has never been higher. From a late nation that looks to its 5th and smallest armed service to be semper paratus, always ready to serve and protect the people and our vital national interests. America's Coast Guard is a highly professional and agile armed force, a law enforcer, a common sense regulator, a maritime first responder on which the American citizens and our plethora of maritime partners confidently rely. This past Atlantic hurricane season, as the President noted, was unprecedented in terms of storms, and the nation saw its Coast Guard at its finest, saving more than 11,000, almost 12,000 people, reconstituting our economically vital waterways and ports, and taking care of 700 Coast Guard families who too were victims of the devastation. Your Coast Guard, Mr. President, vigorously supported the Federal Emergency Management Agency under the capable leadership of Brock Long, the states of Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. We also saw Coast Guard men and women thwart transnational criminals in the Western Hemisphere at unprecedented levels. We saw these same Coast Guard men and women secure our more than 350 domestic seaports in our maritime borders. And they enabled the movement, as the Commandant talked, of $4.6 trillion of commerce on America's waterways on a vast maritime transportation system. And we saw the service project national presence and sovereignty into the high latitudes. This organization, called the Coast Guard, embracing an unmatched collaborative approach that extends across the interagency to a robust network of international, state, local, tribal, territorial partners, the Coast Guard remains a service that is trusted, respected, and valued by our fellow citizens. Our Coast Guard is, in fact, strong. We have been a well-led organization. The privilege of assuming command today is amplified by the fact that this will be a seamless transition, much more about a continuity of command than a changing of command. Because of the tremendous leadership of our 25th Commandant, Admiral Paul Zumkuff. These past 2 years, I've been blessed with the rich opportunity to serve on Admiral Zumkuff's senior leadership team as commander of our Atlantic area. One could not have asked for a more supportive of empowering boss than of our 25th Commandant, a man who ascribes to the concept of leading through leaders, allowing frontline commanders to make decisions, to act innovatively, and to accept reasonable risk. As I survey the waters and the opportunities that lie ahead for this service, I envision our heading remaining generally steady, but we'll look to pick up speed where possible and where appropriate. When I reflect on the leadership of Admiral Paul Zumkuff, I'm drawn to the words of our 40th President, Ronald Reagan, who noted, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets people to do the greatest things." To Paul and Fran, Dawn and I and our entire family, and the entire United States Coast Guard total workforce, sir, we salute and congratulate you on a remarkably successful tour as our 25th Commandant. And Fran, as our Ombudsman at large, you have just lived that graciously and with class and have made a difference in the lives of the 42,000 men and women that call this our service. Thank you so much for what you have done. It is my role today to be brief. So let me just say a few words acknowledging the unwavering support of my wonderful family. Dawn, the stabilizing force in our family, in nautical parlance, that anchor to windward. Our remarkable group of resilient, adaptable, supportive kids, Kelsey, Lindsay, Annalise, Eric, and Zachary. We couldn't be prouder of them individually, collectively. Thank you, guys. Also with Team Schultz today is my mom from Connecticut, and extended family, my father-in-law in from New Jersey, and it's a strong showing from Dawn's side of the family. We're just pleased to have you here. And please indulge me for a minute. We've got a terrific turnout from our 1983 Coast Guard Academy class. Can I ask the leaders for change to stand up, please, and be recognized? Thanks for the support, folks. Class of '83, our superintendent at the Academy, Mr. President, is none other than Jim Rendon, who's here today. So we're all going to descend on his house this fall for our 35th reunion. He doesn't know that yet, but we're going to show up in bigger numbers. In closing, Mr. President, Madam Secretary, you have my solemn obligation and the full commitment of your new service leadership team to deliver a Coast Guard that will be ready, relevant, and responsive to the needs of the Department of Homeland Security, to our Department of Defense combatant commanders, and to the American public writ large, and to the men and women of the United States Coast Guard. I'm eager to serve alongside of you as we employ our bias for action to build on past success and lead this terrific thing called the Coast Guard into the future. May God bless the United States Coast Guard, Semper Paratus. Rear Admiral Allen, all orders and instructions remain in effect.
Aye, aye, Admiral. Thank you, Admiral Schultz. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the playing of Semper Paratus and the departure of the official party. Military members, please recover. Now, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, departing. Hand salute. Ready? 2. Now, Homeland Security departing. Now, Coast Guard departing. Now, Admiral, United States Coast Guard departing. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as the President departs. Admiral Zunkoff's retirement ceremony will begin momentarily. Military members may uncover for the remainder of the ceremony. Please enjoy this musical interlude by our Coast Guard band, and we will return in about 5 minutes. If you need water, please raise your hand and we'll get water to you.
Sometimes a hurricane is a glancing blow, and sometimes a crushing blast.
Holy!
What they have in common is cost. They're all expensive. The average hurricane causes $28 billion in damage. Last year's season was the most expensive in history, totaling more than $208 billion. The Congressional Budget Office estimates 1.2 million Americans live in areas at risk of substantial damage from hurricanes.
Our preparations are well underway to ensure we're ready for the 2018 hurricane season, and yours should be too.
Even if you live far from the coast, you'll still feel it. The federal government pays an average of 60% of hurricane damage costs with tax dollars. But it's hard to measure the cost of human suffering. A new Harvard study estimates that Hurricane Maria killed more than 5,000 people in Puerto Rico last year, adding in deaths caused because of power and service outages in the following months. Maria was part of a season that was predicted to be above normal, but turned into the fifth most active on record.
All it really comes down to is if one of these big storms hits a city, then suddenly it feels like a really big season, because an average season might not make landfall. An average season might make landfall several times. It's something you just have to wait and live through the season before you know.
This year is predicted to be a normal to above normal season. That means a 70% chance of 10 to 16 storms, and 5 to 9 of them could become hurricanes. Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Samantha Bee criticizing the president's daughter during a segment on President Trump's immigration policy. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders reacting in a statement. Her disgusting comments and show are not fit for broadcast, and executives at Time Warner and TBS must demonstrate that such explicit profanity about female members of this administration will not be condoned on its network. Bee apologized to Ivanka on Twitter, saying in part, "It was inappropriate and inexcusable. I crossed a line and I deeply regret it." While her network, TBS, tweeting, "Those words should not have been aired. It was our mistake too, and we regret it." Now, Bee's show, Full Frontal, is losing advertisers. State Farm and Auto Trader announcing they are suspending sponsorships. This days after conservative comedian Roseanne Barr faced backlash for her racist comments on Twitter about former Obama aide Valerie Jarrett. Thursday night, Barr reversing her decision to leave Twitter, apologizing multiple times, including this tweet: "I only care about apologizing for the hurt I have unwittingly and stupidly caused. I humbly confess contrition and remorse."
We don't know exactly how this is all going to play out at the White House today, but the fact that this North Korean delegation has gotten clearance to make this visit shows you just how far these negotiations have come. At the White House today, perhaps a pre-summit summit of sorts. Kim Young-chol, a top North Korean official, is scheduled to be here to directly deliver a letter from leader Kim Jong-un to President Trump. What will the letter say?
I don't know.
But the president thinks it's a positive sign, and it follows 2 days of talks in New York between Kim Young-chol and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is pushing for the Trump-Kim summit to happen.
It does no good if we're in a place where we don't think there's real opportunity to place them together. We've made real progress towards that in the last 72 hours.
There have been other positive signs, including revived high-level talks between North and South Korea. But on the sidelines, countries like China and Russia may play disruptive roles.
Kim Jong-un has somehow managed to put himself, it's almost like he's courting, he's sort of the most eligible bachelor or whatever in Northeast Asia. And everybody's kind of coming to him to see what he wants and what we can do to make you happy, and trying to get influence with him. And I think that's a very strong position for him to be in.
A strong position, perhaps, but the question that looms over all of this is how serious is Kim Jong-un, and what is he willing to give up along the way? In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Never in my life did I think it would come to this some 49 years later.
Survivors of church sex abuse around Minneapolis cheering a $210 million settlement with the Archdiocese. The money will be paid out to 450 people who claim they were abused by St. Paul Minneapolis clergy.
Lives were forever changed. The church let you down. I'm very sorry.
The settlement is part of the church's bankruptcy reorganization. The Archdiocese filed for bankruptcy in 2015, 2 years after the Minnesota legislature opened a 3-year window for abuse victims to file suit.
I'm glad I didn't give up.
Officials say this is one more step towards the church's new beginning.
The completion of the bankruptcy process allows pursuit of a new day that has many realities: atonement, healing, and restoration of trust.
Victims attorney Jeff Anderson notes the settlement includes accountability measures. Pope Francis is also pushing accountability. In a letter to Catholics in Chile, the Holy Father says he's ashamed of the church's failure to listen to abuse victims. The Vatican has been investigating decades-old claims as well as cover-ups within the Chilean clergy. Pope Benedict in 2010 chastised Irish bishops for their inadequate responses to abuse claims, but Pope Francis is the first pontiff to openly denounce, quote, a culture of abuse and cover-up in the Catholic Church. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Well, we're definitely no stranger to styrofoam, but now there's a proposal on the table trying to ban it across the city. That proposal coming from 2 council members, Barbara Bree and Chris Ward. Here they are, among other officials and environmentalists, giving details on how this proposal would work. Along with styrofoam products like plates and cups, we're told there will also be restrictions on some plastic as well as in utensils. Officials say the impacts are permanent, threatening the health of San Diegans, wildlife, and industries critical to our region. Many of these products are both lightweight, so they are easily blown into gutters and storm drains, even when properly disposed of. It's also very brittle, causing a big mess with little pieces.
Whether it's those little coolers that you bring to the beach to store your drinks for the hot afternoon day that degrade and end up right in our ocean. We're finding out right now that the cost of actually recycling that, sometimes we have to export it even to places out of the county. The cost is far more than actually shifting over to a different kind of product altogether.
And you may be wondering what happens next. Well, we're told an environmental committee along with the city council will get together and see if they ultimately want to approve this proposal. Keep in mind, Encinitas has already approved a styrofoam ban. Imperial Beach will do so in July. In downtown, Eric Richards, Fox 5 News.
To protest how they were treated by the Houston Texans. These women all had the same dream. They all aspired to be an integral part of the Houston Texans, and they look forward to promoting the team on game day and throughout the year, at public appearances, cheering, dancing, and performing community service. But their dreams were shattered by the reality of their lives as Houston Texans cheerleaders. They were harassed, intimidated, and forced to live in fear that they could be cut from the team for the slightest infraction. They were told repeatedly that they were dispensable and disposable, and that the surest way to be fired was to speak out. To become a Houston Texans cheerleader is not an easy task. In order to win a slot, each of our clients had to compete against more than 1,000 other young women and prove that they had the talent, the fortitude, the discipline, and attitude to stand out from the crowd and be chosen as one of the lucky few to come out on game day as a Houston Texans cheerleader. The cheerleaders are an essential part of the team's success. They come out of the same tunnel as the players. They are dancing throughout the game, cheering on the players and adding to the excitement. Some of them are going to the suites as eye candy, because the Houston Texans have sold the cheerleaders package to their high-end customers. Throughout the year, cheerleaders are sent to make public appearances at various venues in Houston, for which the team receives substantial appearance fees while the young women earn virtually nothing. The cheerleaders are told that they cannot speak to the players, who are their fellow teammates, even just to wish them good luck. They are told repeatedly that they can be replaced on a moment's notice and that they have no rights. One of our clients was even assaulted by a fan. Rather than addressing this with the fan and ejecting him from the game, the victim was told that she should just suck it up and act like nothing had happened. We have photos of the injury that she sustained on that occasion. The Houston Texans organization is worth billions of dollars. It pays its players hundreds of millions of dollars a year while paying these hard-working women $7.25 an hour, less than they would earn if they worked at McDonald's, less than what the parking attendants at the stadium earn. Worse yet, they do not even pay them the $7.25 an hour for all of the time that they work. The Houston Texans will need to explain to its fans and in court why they value these women so little that they pay them minimum wage for maximum effort. We know why. It's because they are women. And there are always more that are ready to take their place. So what if these women work from sun up to sundown, having to prove themselves over and over again throughout the season, dancing before every game to show that they are worthy to have the honor of being a Houston Texans cheerleader? So what if they have to make sacrifices in terms of their job or schooling? After all, they're just women to be exploited. The cheerleaders are required to make at least 50 public appearances throughout the year, but they receive none of the monies that are paid to the Houston Texans for those appearances. Enough is enough. Women should not have to put up with being paid minimum wage while their male colleagues are paid millions of dollars for their work. Surely, Mr. McNair and the Houston Texans can find it in their budget of hundreds of millions of dollars to pay these women a fair wage, not minimum wage. I say, stop penny pinching. Pay these women what they deserve and make sure that you pay them for every minute that they work. Everyone that supports this team, while knowing how these cheerleaders are treated, is complicit. Suite owners, you should demand to know why the women that come to your suite for a few minutes each game only receive a pittance. Check how much you pay to have these cheerleaders come to your suite. Players, stand up for your coworkers. Do not stand silently by while these women who dance and work so hard to build enthusiasm and help you win are paid almost nothing, while you earn millions of dollars a year for your effort. Fans, when you buy your calendar and your cups and enjoy seeing these cheerleaders at the sidelines dancing and throughout the stadium, think about how these women are being cheated out of a living wage. You pay for your tickets. Demand change and fair treatment for the cheerleaders who enhance your experience. Our clients have one thing in common, in addition to their evident talent and ability. They are all women, and I believe that they're being targeted and discriminated against because of their gender. There is no other explanation for why they are paid so little and not paid at all for a substantial portion of their work. Would the Houston Texans expect any of their male employees to work for nothing? Would they treat their male employees with the lack of respect that these women have had to endure? These are women who have competed to win their jobs and have proven themselves over and over. They are used by the team to sell and market the brand and increase the revenue stream to the Houston Texans. How is it possible that cheerleaders are paid so little and not paid at all for much of their work? It is only possible because the Houston Texans have continued to engage in severe and continuous sex discrimination, and they have not yet been held accountable in a court of law. We have filed this lawsuit today to seek compensation and fairness for these brave women because of what they have suffered. However, their main goal is to seek change for the women that will come after them, so that the Houston Texans will treat all of its employees fairly and with respect. As we say in the women's movement, men, their rights and nothing more. Women, their rights and nothing less. And now, I'd like to present one of the former cheerleaders, and her name is Kelly.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Nooner, and I'm a former Houston Texans cheerleader. Starting off this journey, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment to earn a spot on the Houston Texans cheerleaders team. Little did I know that the Houston Texans would take advantage of me and my teammates. I remember feeling puzzled and angry and asking myself why we didn't deserve to be paid more than $7.25 an hour for what was a demanding job, even more so since we were an additional stream of revenue for the Texans organization, which earned thousands of dollars for the public appearances I was required to work. The organization did not pay us for all of our working activities, including practices, traveling expenses, training camp, and other required personal maintenance expenses. If we wanted to remain Texan cheerleaders, we had to accept subpar pay and unpaid working hours and expenses. If not, we could be terminated. We were constantly reminded how disposable we were to them. I felt like the Texans did not care about my rights as a professional, as a woman, or as part of the team. I felt bullied into accepting their practices out of fear of losing my job. This organization does so much good in the Houston community and throughout Texas. However, they should treat their cheerleaders with the same respect and dignity. There has to be change. Pay your cheerleaders for the hours they work and expenses they incur. Pay them for the value they provide, and ensure that all of their employees, including the Houston Texans cheerleaders, are treated with respect. We have value, and we deserve the right to be treated with dignity and paid fairly. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly, can you spell your last name?
Yes. Yeah.
N-E-U-N-E-R.
And you also have it on the copy that's been handed out. Have all there. Okay, next person is Hannah Turnbow.
Good morning. My name is Hannah Turnbow. My dream to be a Houston Texans cheerleader came true in 2017. Being a Houston Texans cheerleader meant being a part of something bigger than myself and playing a huge role in the community. What I didn't know was being a cheerleader meant being exploited and mistreated and not paid for my time. The hours I put into appearances, keeping up with my fitness, practices, game days, taking away from my family and school was worth more than $7.25 an hour. I and my fellow cheerleaders were treated as the lowest of the low. The Houston Texans were paid thousands of dollars to have us show up at appearances at locations all over Texas with no security, no transportation, and where our safety was not guaranteed. As an example of how I was not protected, I was attacked by a fan at a game, leaving abrasions on my shoulder. My attacker was not approached, nor was he removed from the game. I was told to just suck it up. I stand today with 4 of my cheer sisters who endured similar experiences and want to show girls and young women that we are more than pretty faces in a cheer uniform. We are a team to be reckoned with. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morgan.
Good morning. My name is Morgan Wiederhold, and I'm a former 2016-2017 Houston Texans cheerleader. One of the main reasons why I wanted to be a Houston Texans cheerleader was to be able to do good and give back to my community. I had no idea that once I became a Houston Texans cheerleader, all of my dreams would slowly be shattered. My morals and my faith were put into question every single day by the decisions that the coaches and the cheerleading staff made. They took away my individuality and made me feel as if I didn't have a voice. When I tried to have my own voice and be my own individual, I was crucified and feared for my job. From out-of-country trips to my image being sold on cups in gas stations and in the stadium, I was never fully compensated for my time, nor did I ever see or get any share of any profits from the merchandise. I am standing here today in hopes with making a difference for all the women out there that have the same dream that I did, and for those little girls that have always looked up to me. It's time for us to come together and put an end to this abuse.
Next person is Ainsley Parrish.
Good morning. My name is Ainsley Parrish. I was a member of the 2016-2017 Houston Texans cheerleaders. In my interview process to become a Houston Texans cheerleader, I was asked what I would do with my platform if I became a cheerleader. I responded I would use it to become a role model. Unfortunately, my experience was extremely disappointing. We were harassed, we were bullied, and we were body shamed for $7.25 an hour. We were told what we could wear, how we could wear our hair, what we could post, who we could follow on personal social media. On our personal time, we were told who we could and couldn't hang out with, where we could go, who we could talk to, and what we could say. I was not compensated for all my time, but that's not why I'm here. However, when I brought the pay issue to the Houston Texans' attention, I was ignored. We truly were just all pretty little pawns in the game that the Houston Texans were cashing in on. We were treated with no respect, while they expected the utmost respect from us. The Houston Texans created a hostile and unfair workplace for the cheerleaders. They instilled fear and anxiety in myself and my teammates. Anxiety that all of us struggle with even today. We were told we were replaceable and to keep our mouth shut. The Houston Texans should not have given us a uniform if they did not want us to become an army. Thank you.
My name is Kim Spurlock. I'm here with my partner, Misty Kane. We're very proud to represent these fine individuals. They're very hardworking. We look forward to presenting their case in a court of law against the Houston Texans. Thank you very much.
You introduce Misty. Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
Thank you all.
If you want to say something, you can just be right here. Okay.
My name is Misty Kane. I'm a Texans fan, and I'm a mom of a daughter, a 16-year-old daughter. And when I met these women behind me and I listened to their stories, it made it difficult for me to think about buying another Texans jersey or a ticket. And I hope that every fan out there seeing this and watching and hearing their stories has that same struggle. And we're going to do everything we can to help take care of these women. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a copy of the lawsuit that we filed today. And also, I'm going to stand with the cheerleaders here for a moment. Would you like to stand? right here. This is how much they are paid for their work when they are paid. As we pointed out, often they do work and they are never paid for it. $7.25. And then we'll and then Kimberly, Misty, and I'll take some questions.
I have a question. My first question is.
So we'll sit down here so we can be heard. And my partner Nathan Goldberg is also here with me today.
Oh, hi.
So raise your hand. Okay. All right. You want to stand up here too? Sure. Okay. Good. All right. So let's sit down and we'll take some questions. The cheerleaders are not taking any questions right now, but we'll take some questions.
Ms. Allred, maybe bear Mr. Chronicle, does the contract require that this go to arbitration if there is a problem with the cheerleaders? And if so, how do you work your way around that?
Well, we're permitted to file a lawsuit, and we did file a lawsuit. And if there's an arbitration, that's just a private trial. And, you know, we'll take each step as is necessary to take it. Do you want to weigh in on that?
There's some discrepancies in the various versions of contracts that we've seen, so we're going to proceed in the court of law and go from there.
And there's another lawsuit that has been filed in federal court here that seeks class action status. Will these two lawsuits both go along contemporaneously, or will there be an attempt to merge them, or how do you expect this process to?
Our clients do not intend to be a part of a class. They want to present their individual claims.
Did the women know?
And each individual has slightly different claims and also different damages, and we like to treat people as individuals and not part of a class unless it is necessary and there's sufficient similarity and so forth. Yeah.
Did they know how much they were going to be paid when they signed a contract with the Houston Texans?
I believe that they were aware of the minimum wage. Of course, they had every right to expect they would be paid for all of their work. Last time I checked, the Houston Texans were not a charity. They are a business, and you know they need to treat their employees according to the law.
Which specific work were they not paid for? Can you explain that a little more?
Do we want to say anything about that?
Well, it's detailed out in the complaint. I think you should rely on that document for the specifics of the work that was not paid for.
In other words, rather than our paraphrasing it, we want to maintain accuracy, and we stand on our complaint.
Could anyone estimate what the average work week would be in terms of hours, either during the season or during the off season? Presumably, it would be more than 40. But how much would
many weeks would be more than 40, but I'm not going to speculate or estimate at this point.
Is there an estimate of how much money they weren't paid and should have been paid?
I don't have a dollar figure for you at this point.
Again, it would be different for each person, but the concept that there is work being performed that is not paid for is just, for us, reprehensible, especially when we're talking about a minimum of or actually for them, a maximum of $7.25 an hour. To even be deprived of any of that is just wrong.
There's been several complaints made by professional NFL cheerleader teams across the country.
That's correct.
Why did you choose to get involved in this one?
Well, because again, I feel enough is enough, and also Kimberly reached out to me. We are the leading women's rights law firm in the United States and have been for 42 years, and we deal with many employment issues, many employment wage discrimination issues on account of sex, and we have a great deal of admiration for Kimberly and for Misty and for their firm, and we were honored to be asked to work with them as a team to assert the rights of these cheerleaders, to protect their rights, and to vindicate their rights in a court of law. So we accepted.
Have your clients talked about unionizing? Is it like if they were able to unionize, would that take care of some of these problems, or is that something that they discussed? Or?
Right now, right now we are proceeding in a court of law. But I do adhere to the saying of the famous labor organizer, Mother Jones, don't agonize, organize. But they have organized to proceed with this lawsuit. So that's their focus right now, is seeking protection and a vindication of their rights in federal court.
Do you think this would be a first step, though, for a collective bargaining agreement that would guarantee minimum standards?
Yeah, I can't comment on whether this would be a first step or there's any step at all in reference to a collective bargaining agreement.
What is the significance?
But it's just we're focused on the lawsuit.
What's the significance of the EEOC complaint? Has it been filed yet, or is it in the process of being filed?
The EEOC complaint is in the process.
There have been a number of lawsuits, as I mentioned already, one already against the Texans and then against other NFL organizations, specifically coming from cheerleaders. Gloria, this is specific for you. Do you believe that cheerleading organizations will eventually fall by the wayside if they don't change? Should NFL teams continue to have cheerleading organizations if they continue to be sued?
At this point, we're not arguing with the concept of whether there should be cheerleaders or not, but we are asserting that if there are cheerleaders, that they should not be exploited in their wages or in any of their terms of their working conditions. I do think that Commissioner Goodall needs to review all of this. I plan to be in New York on Monday, and I'll be delivering a letter to the commissioner's office on Monday, because I do think that he needs to review this. And after all, they're there to support the NFL. They're essentially part of it. So the focus should not only be on the players, it should also be on those who support the organization. And I'll release that letter on Monday.
Will this be a letter specific to this particular suit and these Houston Texans cheerleaders, or all NFL cheerleaders?
Well, I don't represent any other cheerleaders. However, it is my understanding that there are similar assertions being made by cheerleaders in other parts of the country. So I do think that that is important to review. I know the commissioner is certainly familiar with me and my concerns about victims of sexual assault, victims of domestic violence.
I just wanted to...
And now he will be aware of my concern about how the cheerleaders are treated. My partner, Nathan Goldberg.
I just wanted to respond further to your point about, will they eventually get rid of cheerleaders? I don't think so. Cheerleaders are an essential part of the experience. It's a big part of what excites the fans, a big part of why they come out at the beginning of the game. I don't think this is about getting rid of the cheerleader organizations, whether they're sued or not. It's about getting them to recognize these women have worth and they need to be treated fairly and with respect.
Okay, any other?
In some of these allegations, in all of them here in Houston, the body shaming, the alleged mistreatment, they were all perpetrated by a female coach, by a woman. Is that unusual, and does it make a difference?
Okay, well, let me just say, we're talking about a system that discriminates. There are many, many issues, and we have not begun to address all of them. But this is not about a person. This is about widespread, severe, and rampant, pervasive discrimination. And we are concerned about the wages, we are concerned about the working conditions. And those decisions are made by the people at the top. Those people who are in power. Those people who derive their financial income, their profits from the work of the team and the cheerleaders. So that's what we're looking at. This is not to say we're not looking at any particular individuals, but it is to say our focus is on systematic change. We don't want to lose that focus.
assault by threat of bodily injury, in what sense did the cheerleader coach threaten to harm these young women? Will you be seeking?
Okay. I think we don't want to. I think we need to not really get into that. I think we. Yeah, it's in the complaint. However, that's a fair question, but we're going to, present our evidence in a court of law on that rather than at this time.
Well, would you be seeking redress through the criminal court system?
Right now we are focused on the civil system of justice for these injustices that they have been forced to endure.
Are you asking for any specific dollar amount?
We're asking for what we have provided as our prayer for relief in the lawsuit. So that's on the back page, which is page 19 of the lawsuit. That spells it out.
Well, have your clients fired or did they quit because of the working conditions?
Well, our clients are no longer there. There are different circumstances for each one, so we would respectfully not comment on that at this time. So let me stand up, and here is. You want to join back there with it? Okay. Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Make sure I have
Okay, the names. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. And we didn't introduce.
Yes. Ashley Rodriguez.
And Ashley is on the lawsuit. She is a plaintiff in the lawsuit.
Morgan Wiedeholt. Kelly Nooner.
Hannah Turnbow.
Ainsley Parrish.
So none of these women are currently employed, or nor are they seeking employment by the Houston Texans. But we want to commend them because what they're doing is going to be of benefit to future female employees, and so they're making that sacrifice of their privacy in order to stand up and work to win change.
Gloria, when you mentioned there were pictures of the assault,
of the injuries that resulted from the assault.
Was there a police report? Is that where these?
We're not going to get into those details right now, but I thank you for the question. Okay, so thank you for coming, and we're going to go. And the lawsuit was filed this morning.
I'm sorry, what was your last name? Kene, C-O-N-E.
Okay.
Is that accent on the E? Thank you all.
Thank you.
So guys, back in the newsroom here at Fox 5 DC, attorney Gloria Allred doing her thing, representing those 5 former Houston Texan cheerleaders in that lawsuit. We've seen plenty of this type of stuff before. I want to continue on the sports trend because this is a really important thing that they're doing, obviously, as this stuff continues to come out and people continue to become more vocal about it. But let's have T roll in here for a little sports talk on the NBA Finals last night, Game 1.
Game 1.
If you guys caught any of that, I know some of you guys are West Coasters. You maybe have some fan allegiance to the West, where we're all watching all eyes on LeBron this on the East Coast here.
So yes.
What a game, right? Game 1.
It was a great game, and usually Game 1s are the ones that kind of determine. Well, sometimes. I think the statistic was like 9 times out of 10, the person who wins Game 1 usually wins it all.
There's some stats.
Yeah, but yesterday was a very super close game. It was neck on neck throughout the whole game, I want to say. And then the Cavs had the lead. But what killed it was the last 2 seconds of the game.
Of regulation, because it went into overtime.
But actually, okay, so we'll talk about that. J.R. Smith blew it.
Okay, did you guys watch the famous LeBron moment where he's grabbing his hand, or he's like reaching out like what just happened? So many memes.
It was 2 seconds on the clock left. J.R. Smith thought they had the lead, and he held onto the ball. Nobody shot the ball. LeBron was very, very, very upset, and he expressed it right after the play.
Rightfully so. And yeah, continue.
Because they didn't even have a chance to even make the shot or the layup. They had 2 seconds. You know, all he had to do was get rid of the ball.
And they bounced it out to the three-point line, passed it around. Guy didn't even get the shot off.
It did not. Yeah, it didn't even work. He didn't even get the shot off.
He got a shot off, but it wasn't.
He barely got the shot off. Yeah, and it
didn't go far enough.
The whole play was blown. But before that, leading on to that was the Kevin Durant foul. The foul that LeBron James picked up.
Okay.
He was outside of the key. He didn't move, and they called a foul on LeBron James. And that gave Kevin Durant two free throw shots, and that's what tied up the game in the first place.
Yeah.
So without that happening, I think the Cavs would have had it on top the whole way, and they would have won. They could have won, but you know.
Crazy in the end, so neck and neck with the score. Also notable and funny was in the press conferences later. 2 moments. One, LeBron walked out of his own press conference. He ended it abruptly with a question. Reporters were kind of on him, asking, you know, what happened at the end there, and he kind of got irked, I think, and it was repetitive, and he was sort of like, I didn't know their feelings.
Yeah, it really wasn't even his fault. I think they should have.
True, he didn't know the brains of his teammates, but I do think the reporter, sort of understanding both sides of this here, said, you know, did you think that he knew the game was tied? You know, he was wondering what LeBron thought.
Yeah.
LeBron got a little irked and walked out of there.
But J.R. Smith is also known to be like, you know, not hard-headed, but like kind of I'll say boneheaded.
Sure.
Yeah, he can be kind of arrogant when it comes to his ball play. So, you know, like, it's a lot of pressure, I'm sure. In the last 3 seconds, your mind, you know, the human mind can't really control all that stress.
True. It's crazy seconds, in these NBA games.
I'm sure, you know, he was just, but, you know, you're a professional, too.
True.
You've done this. You've been in the fight before.
Professional.
You need to be focused if you're going to, like, you can't waste that.
And I was going to say, even in the press conference with the Warriors, Steph Curry, and they were like, you know, I thought they were just looking for LeBron. I would have. That's what they said.
Yeah, man.
Because so people get it. You know, it was a little contentious. It was interesting. Game 1.
It was a good game, though. Overall, great game. LeBron James had no help, but he scored 51 points, which is he also tied the scoring more than 30 points in a finals game or playoffs game.
There's some crazy stat.
With Michael Jordan.
That's right. And then he had 51 in total for the game. Insane numbers.
And still lost, which is insane. Like you made 51 points and
totally.
But it was a very, 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 very close game. The press conference was crazy. LeBron James walking in with his shorts on.
So that was another moment, if you guys didn't see, all over the sort of social media. Again, a lot of these pictures, unfortunately, we can't take to digital because of rights. But he walked into the game with a suit.
He had the Bart Simpson church suit on, if you guys ever watched The Simpsons.
A suit and shorts for him, right. You love The Simpsons. And people are saying, you know, he's LeBron, he's been in it forever, he's a professional, he can do this, he's setting the trend.
He's the GOAT.
I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to LeBron from last night.
But the Warriors are so stacked with. They have several GOATs of themselves. So.
True. It's going to be a really, really great series if that's any indication. Also, I mean, we're looking at an amazing Stanley Cup final series.
DC is in the big game. It's tied
Saturday.
1-1. Yeah, Saturday is going to be.
It's going to be amazing. Quickly, Schultz, before you leave, I just want to mention you were asking about my feelings about these women and them, if they're worth $7.35 or whatever, you know, the minimum wage thing. No, I mean, I definitely think. Obviously, you're being sarcastic in that comment, but yeah, the cheerleaders who are bringing that lawsuit against what they've been paid, how they've been treated as, you know, symbols and whatnot. I mean, I think there are a whole slew of rights that they deserve, and hopefully we'll see that happen for them. But back to all the finals. Caps game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals is back in DC Saturday night, and they just announced that there's going to be a free concert right outside Capital One Arena. Sting and Shaggy performing. Let me show you that press release.
Are
you pumped for that or what?
I am. I'm not even a big hockey fan, but the Stanley Cup. This is the big game, so you have to be. If you're from DC or from Las Vegas or just a fan of hockey, I'm sure this is your moment. Like
Right, NHL, yeah, totally their moment. NHL released this press release talking about the National Portrait Gallery. It's an amazing area and it's an amazing space. It's not huge, so it's gonna be jam packed. So if you guys are in the area and you're headed down there,
that also where they had after we won game 2?
Where everybody was
that's where the crowd
cheering,
was. Yes, so
riled
the
up,
streets of DC
the songs.
was
It's
just
exciting.
they were very excited. They were celebrating. I wasn't there. I had some friends that were there. I saw some Instagram videos.
Oh
too.
yeah, people were snapping it up.
Man, they were having a ball after that win.
It's a big deal, and so all the games that are in Vegas are going to be watch parties there at the arena, and people go crazy. It's so fun.
It's because DC never really made it to the big game.
Yeah,
and this is
since the early '90s, Redskins or whatever.
I mean, I can't think of a time when DC like flooded the streets over a win in a sports game.
And it is interesting. I will say that it's that when they're doing it, it's hockey, not one of the big 4, but kind of on the lower end, I would say, for fandom.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely.
In general, it's not. It's considered. I mean, some of you guys might be avid hockey, but like. It is, I think, sort of different for DC.
Yeah, and if you're a general sports fan, if you just like sports and athletics, then this is definitely a time for people to celebrate in DC.
And Iran saying your Caps can stop beating my Knights anytime now. Iran's been one of our viewers forever, one of the most loyal for so many months, and I know he's in Vegas.
Iran is cool, and also the Vegas Knights are a brand new team, and you guys are doing so well just off the bat. Like it's amazing, like it's crazy. 2
really cool things to see the Knights being a brand new team. That's amazing for them. Awesome, Iran, to have you on as one of their fans, and then amazing also to have DC finally go to the finals in a sport in X amount of years, more than 20.
It's ironic because I visited Las Vegas earlier.
You were there.
Yeah, so I was definitely watching some hockey. There are big hockey fans over there.
So cool. I will say, am I the only one that likes the intro of the Knights because it's medieval? Like everyone hates on it. I'm gonna give you a little glory for that because I think it's cool to watch, and the fanfare of Vegas shines through.
Yeah.
So
and Vegas is also gonna get their football team soon. They're gonna get the Raiders.
Very cool.
In 2020,
They're
I think.
growing. You guys are rocking it out.
Vegas is definitely, you guys are coming up in the sports world.
Obviously, guys, we're tracking all the top stories and anything alive that's coming in. If you were with us at the beginning of the stream, you probably saw President Trump make some remarks. He was presiding over the change of command for the U.S. Coast Guard at D.C. Coast Guard headquarters. They were changing, the head commandant admiral that's going to be leading the Coast Guard. So it was a nice ceremony, and his words, if you missed it and you want to catch it, just scroll that dial kind of back to the beginning of the stream and you can watch that. And then other than that, we've been tracking some of the other packages and stories from across the nation. You can see our newsroom here on a Friday, pretty quiet, pretty, we're kind of coming down from our zip trip in the morning show. We send all our people out to a certain city to highlight this town. Today we were in Laurel in Prince George's County, Maryland, which you're very familiar.
Did you just say Yanny, or I'm sorry?
Isn't that joke over?
Yeah, it is. It's so dead.
Waiting on that one to die, but it's not dead yet. It's not dead yet. No, we were in Laurel, Maryland, and the area of Prince George's.
Laurel, Maryland, yes. That's actually, I went to Laurel, Maryland growing up every Sunday for piano lessons. Fun fact.
Awesome.
Fun random
First of all,
fact.
I didn't even know that about you. I also took piano. We have that in common.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Laurel's a
I
great
didn't know.
city. They have it's a wonderful place. People are friendly. They've got some good. Their Laurel High School's pretty good in sports too. They're not bad. Yeah. So.
I've been to that area long before the major flooding in 2016, and then the now second time flooding. I was reporting and doing some work for something out there, and I remember going during some troubled time when the main street and the sort of downtown area was affected by weather, and I can't remember if it was high waters because that area gets affected, but it wasn't as extreme as we've seen.
Like Ellicott City, for
like
example.
Ellicott City.
That's like.
But it was similar, to the flooding that we've been seeing in Ellicott City.
And Laurel's usually I would say Laurel's closer to DC, but it's right in between DC and Baltimore.
Yeah, so it is close to DC, right? Prince George's County. So a little bit different than Baltimore County, but yeah, you know the area pretty well, and cool town. So anyway, our morning show was there and celebrating the town and little kind of spaces and businesses and shops and stuff that they have and highlighting their area. So that's what we're we were watching this morning. So now people are starting to filter back in. It's a little more quiet on this Friday, but we're going into a really pumped up weekend with the Caps and Knights game, obviously here in DC.
And then Sunday game 2, Cleveland
of
Cavs.
the NBA finals.
Yep.
It's really interesting. Yeah, we have the hockey and the NBA finals. So a lot of sports this weekend. These weekends fly by, especially in June.
It's getting hot, man. Literally.
It's a hot time.
Literally.
I know, and it's hot and humid among everything else. It's super hot and humid. Iran making a few comments here. Super hard to get tickets for those games. I know, and I bet the Vegas one, like you just mentioned, the show beforehand that people just love. It's so expensive here. Yeah, you guys' tickets ranged crazy. I will say back here, they're reporting they're a little lower. They're in the 300 to like 900 range, 300 to 700. There, it's because it's Vegas. It's insane. It's the entertainment. It's the fanfare. Maybe it's their space as well. But Iran, one of our viewers saying they range from 750 up to 7,000.
I also got to say how I admire Las Vegas hockey teams teamwork, because there's no actor, I can't think of the star of the team. I guess.
Like they're cohesive, all working together.
They work together. They're like perfect synchronized team. They're brand new. I guess I can give all the credit to the coaching, maybe, because it takes a lot of work to actually put something together and make it work the way that they're working so successfully.
Yeah, cool.
The Caps, you think of Ovechkin, you think of Wilson, but. Yeah, I can't
there, standby athletes that almost have made it in previous years, but this year finally
I hope
inching
Ovechkin
forward.
wins it, man. He deserves it. It's
so interesting to watch. Yeah. I mean, we're all these fans, saying that he deserves it after all these years. So
go Caps, go Nets. Let's go.
So many DC things. Well, guys, if we did have anything breaking, we'd make sure we show you. Unfortunately, I don't have video of this, but this morning also they made an announcement that they caught the man that was the suspect in that alleged cop killing case in Tennessee. If you remember, just a couple days ago on our stream, we had some video footage of that manhunt. It was still underway. They finally found him. He's a white male, age 31. They believe he was high on some sort of drug when they caught him. And that he had killed this cop when they found the stolen car. There's a whole saga to it. There was a quick press conference while we were playing out the Coast Guard change of command live, so we missed that, unfortunately. But that did happen, so that guy is now captured. So that's a good thing that we're hearing in the news. And that's what we got for what's going on in the newsroom. We'll kind of see what else has to break and keep our eye on some of the breaking news, guys. Looking into what else is happening. I just read that a high school student in Texas, shot him or herself, we don't know if it was male or female, in school. So it created sort of a gun incident in this school, shot him or herself in this high school. The police are still looking into that. And it was self-inflicted. The condition is unknown. We don't know if that student is dead or will die in the hospital, but was transported to the hospital after a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So we'll keep you updated on that if we see any press conference come from that. Police, again, talking about this Texas high school. I think it's called, so we can find out what that is. I don't have the name offhand. McKinney North High School in McKinney, Texas. So that's breaking. No video of that yet. Condition is still unknown. The place was initially on lockdown, and they're still investigating the scene. So that's what's happened in Texas, unfortunately. Another gun incident. Other than that, guys, we're going to take a look. We have some videos coming in. We'll take a moment, though, and shoot you over to our sunny skies here at the Capitol Dome, and we'll be back. Thanks, Dee.
Thanks, Molly.
About 30 seconds.
All right, guys, we're looking at some live footage right now of the North Koreans arriving at the White House. That was what you were watching just moments ago here. The front scene here, you can see the Suburbans, and that's the front entrance where they were arriving and going in. So this is the moment. You can take a watch. This is live happening right now in D.C. North Koreans arriving, and we'll see what becomes of this for now. A couple scenes of this, too. I have a couple different angles. We'll give you both of them. So as you guys probably know, if you've been following this, President Trump is expected to receive a hand-delivered letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the White House from these officials. So we're going to see if that happens, what we can sort of glean from this. I'm going to take a look at Twitter too and see what people are tweeting. But that may be what determines if or not the planned summit for June is on or off. As you know, it's been sort of on and off again in the past few weeks. We're going to see what happens here. We took this yesterday to our stream. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, met with Kim Yong-chol, a four-star general and former spy chief, one of the most powerful figures in that regime in North Korea officials. And they had talks in New York. Pompeo later said in a press conference that things were progressing. And now we're seeing if this letter does arrive. You can see the journalists there arriving and trying to get the scoop and get that scene in to get the most they can as to if this is happening now and what we'll learn from this. So we are going to be watching this. Again, this comes many days after the summit was reportedly on and then off again. We learned it via Twitter. And so now we'll see if this does come to pass. So take a look at the hustle and bustle of the White House as the officials arrive to purportedly deliver this letter and see what happens next.
No, this is the edge, and then Craig's the other edge. So. We can trust. Yeah, I want to keep. You seen that? We don't like that. It's the camera guy. Yeah. Right. I'm gonna get the. Know what it's like. Okay, that's fine. I'll be right back. Okay. Jabin. Here. Yep. I don't know who the others two are, but would you grab them? Yep. Distribute amongst your colleagues. Thanks, man. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Dr. Cole, if you want one, I'll grab your shit. Okay. There's your start. Walk back and exit the same way they came in. Alright, yeah. I didn't see him, I was sending.
Nancy Ashley remembers the days America's Most Wanted criminals were posted on flyers, handed out door to door.
Oh yeah, and in the post offices too.
But now, in 2018, local law enforcement agencies like Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office say there's a better way to get the public's attention.
By the time you print a 50 Most Wanted page or a 10 Most Wanted page and get it posted everywhere, you could have some of those people back in custody, and now it's outdated.
They're now turning to social media like Twitter, Facebook, and Nextdoor to target neighborhoods where a fugitive could be passing through.
We can reach, I think, 80,000 people at once, or we can target 300 homes in one area. So just the scalability of Nextdoor is great for us.
Like this post here, already seen by thousands of eyes in just one community, creating a quick response time that's unlike anything they've seen years ago.
We have had times that within an hour after posting something on social media, we've had calls from Crime Stoppers wanting to know what investigators working it because they have tips already.
And it's more than just another tool to apprehend suspects. It's a way for law enforcement to build connections with the community.
I can't even imagine where it's going to go from here.
Oh, whoa. It really does kind of look like a little R2-D2.
They're called autonomous delivery robots, and Arizona just made it legal for companies to operate and test them on city sidewalks.
The law will go into effect starting in August, and pedestrians already have mixed reviews about sharing these sidewalks with robots.
They could be running into us, or I could be running into it with a stroller, or is it going to damage property? But overall, being behind the technology in general is where we have to be.
It's just a little crazy because I've never heard anything about that, and it's just like seems like it's happening kind of fast. Kind of like the whole autonomous car thing.
The state's decision comes only 2 months after an Uber autonomous car hit and killed an Arizona woman, causing Uber to shut down its autonomous car operations in the state. Those involved in passing the legislation, along with those in robot testing, say this situation is different.
I wanted to have basic safety regulations, common sense regulations, so that something like this wouldn't happen.
When you're traveling at 4 miles an hour on the sidewalk and you can stop within a couple of inches, that makes a big difference compared to a car at a very high speed on a freeway.
The robots are operated with apps like the one developed by delivery robot inventors Starship Technologies.
It would be like a local marketplace of local shops and things like that. And you order and get a robot within 15 to 30 minutes.
The Arizona law will allow companies to test their robots until 2020. Then legislators will revisit and decide whether any changes to the law need to be made.
Let's give it a year and a half and see if it can deliver, you know, no pun intended.
In Phoenix, Charlie LaPastora, Fox News.
You can get a look behind me. That's the Avalon Fishing Pier.
Sometimes a hurricane is a glancing blow, and sometimes a crushing blast.
Holy!
What they have in common is cost. They're all expensive. The average hurricane causes $28 billion in damage. Last year's season was the most expensive in history, totaling more than $208 billion. The Congressional Budget Office estimates 1.2 million Americans live in areas at risk of substantial damage from hurricanes.
Our preparations are well underway to ensure we're ready for the 2018 hurricane season, and yours should be too.
Even if you live far from the coast, you'll still feel it. The federal government pays an average of 60% of hurricane damage costs with tax dollars. But it's hard to measure the cost of human suffering. A new Harvard study estimates that Hurricane Maria killed more than 5,000 people in Puerto Rico last year, adding in deaths caused because of power and service outages in the following months. Maria was part of a season that was predicted to be above normal, but turned into the 5th most active on record.
All it really comes down to is if one of these big storms hits a city, then suddenly it feels like a really big season, because an average season might not make landfall. An average season might make landfall several times. It's something you just have to wait and live through the season before you know.
This year is predicted to be a normal to above normal season. That means a 70% chance of 10 to 16 storms, and 5 to 9 of them could become hurricanes. Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Samantha Bee criticizing the president's daughter during a segment on President Trump's immigration policy. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders reacting in a statement. Her disgusting comments and show are not fit for broadcast, and executives at Time Warner and TBS must demonstrate that such explicit profanity about female members of this administration will not be condoned on its network. Bee apologized to Ivanka on Twitter, saying in part, "It was inappropriate and inexcusable. I crossed a line and I deeply regret it." While her network, TBS, tweeting, "Those words should not have been aired. It was our mistake too, and we regret it." Now, Bee's show, Full Frontal, is losing advertisers. State Farm and Auto Trader announcing they are suspending sponsorships. This days after conservative comedian Roseanne Barr faced backlash for her racist comments on Twitter about former Obama aide Valerie Jarrett. Thursday night, Barr reversing her decision to leave Twitter, apologizing multiple times, including this tweet: "I only care about apologizing for the hurt I have unwittingly and stupidly caused. I humbly confess contrition and remorse."
We don't know exactly how this is all going to play out at the White House today, but the fact that this North Korean delegation has gotten clearance to make this visit shows you just how far these negotiations have come. At the White House today, perhaps a pre-summit summit of sorts. Kim Young-chol, a top North Korean official, is scheduled to be here to directly deliver a letter from leader Kim Jong-un to President Trump. What will the letter say?
I don't know.
But the president thinks it's a positive sign, and it follows 2 days of talks in New York between Kim Young-chol and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is pushing for the Trump-Kim summit to happen.
It does no good if we're in a place where we don't think there's real opportunity to place them together. We've made real progress towards that in the last 72 hours.
There have been other positive signs, including revived high-level talks between North and South Korea. But on the sidelines, countries like China and Russia may play disruptive roles.
Kim Jong-un has somehow managed to put himself, it's almost like he's courting, he's sort of the most eligible bachelor or whatever in Northeast Asia. And everybody's kind of coming to him to see what he wants and what we can do to make you happy, and trying to get influence with him. And I think that's a very strong position for him to be in.
A strong position, perhaps, but the question that looms over all of this is, how serious is Kim Jong-un, and what is he willing to give up along the way? In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Never in my life did I think it would come to this some 49 years later.
Survivors of church sex abuse around Minneapolis cheering a $210 million settlement with the Archdiocese. The money will be paid out to 450 people who claim they were abused by St. Paul Minneapolis clergy.
Lives were forever changed. The church let you down. I'm very sorry.
The settlement is part of the church's bankruptcy reorganization. The Archdiocese filed for bankruptcy in 2015, 2 years after the Minnesota legislature opened a 3-year window for abuse victims to file suit.
I'm glad I didn't give up.
Officials say this is one more step towards the church's new beginning.
The completion of the bankruptcy process allows pursuit of a new day that has many realities: atonement, healing, and restoration of trust.
Victims attorney Jeff Anderson notes the settlement includes accountability measures. Pope Francis is also pushing accountability. In a letter to Catholics in Chile, the Holy father says he's ashamed of the church's failure to listen to abuse victims. The Vatican has been investigating decades-old claims as well as cover-ups within the Chilean clergy. Pope Benedict in 2010 chastised Irish bishops for their inadequate responses to abuse claims, but Pope Francis is the first pontiff to openly denounce, quote, a culture of abuse and cover-up in the Catholic Church. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Well, we're definitely no stranger to styrofoam, but now there's a proposal on the table trying to ban it across the city. That proposal coming from two council members, Barbara Bree and Chris Ward. Here they are, among other officials and environmentalists, giving details on how this proposal would work. Along with styrofoam products like plates and cups, we're told there will also be restrictions on some plastic as well as in utensils. Officials say the impacts are permanent, threatening the health of San Diegans, wildlife, and industries critical to our region. Many of these products are both lightweight, so they are easily blown into gutters and storm drains, even when properly disposed of. It's also very brittle, causing a big mess with little pieces.
Whether it's those little coolers that you bring to the beach to store your drinks for the hot afternoon day that degrade and end up right in our ocean. We're finding out right now that the cost of actually recycling that, sometimes we have to export it even to places out of the county. The cost is far more than actually shifting over to a different kind of product altogether.
And you may be wondering what happens next. Well, we're told an environmental committee along with the city council will get together and see if they ultimately want to approve this proposal. Keep in mind, Encinitas has already approved a styrofoam ban. Imperial Beach will do so in July. In downtown, Eric Richards, Fox 5 News.
And we'll take you back, guys, to this scene outside the White House where supposedly this letter is being delivered. And we're going to see what happens after this. We just heard about that in the story from Doug Luzader, who did the package on what to expect next after Mike Pompeo had his meeting in New York. And President Trump is now awaits that letter to see if, in fact, that summit is going to still be on for June 12th or another date. So we'll have to see what happens. But again, live camera right now outside of the White House. Here's a little more of a pan out zoom that we're just seeing as well. On the other side, as journalists and videographers get ready outside to catch anybody and any statement that might be made outside the White House. So we'll watch and wait with you. This is the live video that we have coming in right now on this Friday, June 1st. Happy June, everybody, going into a hot summer month here in DC, and we'll watch and wait for something to happen here. If we have anything else, I'll bring it to you guys live on our stream.
You're live, by the way. I just saw it. The window. The quad bar. Yeah, tomorrow is, but still. I know.
Oh, and yes, that's
The live camera.
I can see there are some videos.
I brought one with me. I got one. I brought one. What else is fun? I brought some. I'm good.
All right, guys, pretty quiet in our newsroom here today. I know we had some cool stuff at the beginning of our stream for you. If you missed some of that, do check it out. The U.S. Coast Guard ushering in a new commandant, and also the sex discrimination lawsuit that some cheerleaders, former cheerleaders for the Houston Texans, are filing. And now this, kind of a live look. It's pretty cool looking inside that window of the White House as the North Koreans arrive, and we'll see what becomes of this meeting and if or not that summit will be on. So more to come, guys, next week as we're back with you guys on Monday at 11:30. Take care, have a great weekend, and enjoy your sports weekend too. A ton of sports on the schedule for the weekend. Yeah, with that, guys, we'll close it down and we'll update you on what happens here at the White House next week. I'm sure there'll be lots of stuff in politics that we'll be covering. For now, I'm Molly Nevola in the newsroom here at Fox 5 DC. We'll catch you next week, guys.